Now, the Korean practice of eating dog, yeah, you heard me correctly, has been criticised, but recently there have also been increasing oppositions from young South Koreans.
And after years of campaigning, animal rights charities in the UK have finally got a breakthrough, and dog meat is to be taken off the menu and banned in South Korea by the end of the year.
This is Claire Bass. Claire is Senior Campaigns Director at Humane Society International, and she's here with the star of the show, Henry. And Henry could have been on somebody's plate yesterday with Brussels sprouts and carrots or whatever. And tell us about Henry's story. Henry's a lovely-looking dog.
Thank you. Yes, he's gorgeous. He's Humane Society International, my charity, we rescued Henry and 170 other dogs from a dog meat farm that he was born on in South Korea back in 2017. So we've had him for 5 years now.
Claire, when you say a dog meat farm, right, immediately I'm thinking of a farm in the UK, say, for instance, and everything's regulated and dogs are in certain pounds and whatever it is, and they reach a certain weight and then they're shipped out and whatever. How organised is a dog meat pound in South Korea?
Well, I mean, South Korea is the only country that really sort of factory farms dogs for their meat. I mean, the dog meat trade happens, sadly, in a number of countries in Asia. But South Korea is unique in that it farms dogs. So some farms can have, 500, 1,000 dogs even on a single farm in exactly, tiny barren cages, wire floors, so their claws, go through the mesh. Their waste just collects up underneath them. They're appalling places.
Not the same conditions that we would expect farming pigs or farming cows, for instance.
Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, Eamonn, I mean, all animals that are bred to end up on the dinner plate, can suffer horrifically, and whether that's a pig on a farm in the UK or a dog on a farm in South Korea, the suffering can be exactly the same. But Korean dog meat farms are uniquely appalling places. The noise, the smell, just the desperation in these dogs' eyes is really overwhelming.
Oh, gosh, so how old was Henry when you were able to rescue him, and how did you manage to get in there?
So, Humane Society International, we started working to campaign against the dog meat trade because of the suffering back in 2015. And we realised quickly that there were a lot of farmers who wanted to leave the trade and who wanted, it was increasingly not lucrative, it was increasingly stigmatised. So we worked with them to give them a way out of the industry and help them into a new humane livelihood. So we met Henry's dog meat farmer. We worked with him to agree to close the farm. We rescued Henry and all 170 dogs.
Wow.
And he's now, engaged in, I think he's chili farming or growing mushrooms or some other non-animal crop, which is a fantastic news story, obviously. And now we have the ban coming through.
And why has that come about? I mean, we were talking about the role of young people in this, but increasingly, literally, their taste has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, dog meat's never been really a mainstay of Korean cuisine. It's varied in popularity, over hundreds of years. But over the last couple of decades, 10 years in particular, it's seen a massive decline in popularity, particularly younger people just don't want to eat it. So 86% of Korean people say they don't eat and wouldn't eat dog meat, and almost 2/3 of people support a dog meat ban, which really amazingly, news last week, the government said they're going to bring in the next couple of months. So it's phenomenal.
I suppose that begs the question, what will happen to a number of the dogs that are in these farms at the moment? Is there a bit of an emergency to try and rescue dogs like Henry? Because you were telling us just before we went live how traumatised he was when you first got your hands on him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think the amazing thing about dog meat dogs, and we've rescued almost 2,700 dogs from dog meat farms so far, the amazing thing is how forgiving they are and how resilient and how willing to trust and love they are again. But yeah, I mean, it's a huge challenge. We can't deny that. And there's something in the region of 1 million dogs on dog meat farms.
So do they bring the dogs in fully grown? I mean, are the dogs, they're literally like a dog snatcher that goes out and steals dogs and puts it in the back of a van and then brings them to the farm where they're sold off? Or are they bred over 6 months or a year to fulfil the optimum weight?
Mostly the latter. So Henry, for example, was born into a cage on the dog meat farm. There is breeding. There's a breeding cycle of puppies born, to be fattened to be turned into meat. But there's also an issue where abandoned pets can end up being sort of dumped at dog meat farms, and that's why we see such an amazing variety of breeds. You know, everything from Chihuahuas to retrievers to, you know, mountain dogs. There's, you know, it's like a horror show version of Crufts.
Everything's on the menu.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Did you choose Henry to rescue, or did Henry choose you?
I think it was a little bit of both. Yeah, I mean, I went to the farm, I was part of the rescue team back in 2017 that closed the farm, which is a huge operation, and, you know, to get all the dogs out and onto their loving homes. And Henry was particularly shut down. He was really, really, you know, just didn't really want to interact with the world. I think he just thought, you know, this is a horrible place. I don't really want to be here.
Look how happy his face is now.
He's a very happy boy.
Yeah.
So it took a good long time before he, you know, he was scared of absolutely everything. He was scared of his own shadow in the oven door.
Henry.
And, you know, now he's just the most amazing ambassador, you know, to end the trade.
What do you want British people to do? How can British people help?
Well, I think, you know, British people have already helped massively, and we're so grateful to all our supporters who have helped us to make this dream come true of banning the dog meat trade in South Korea. It's just unbelievable that this suffering is going to come to an end. And I think the other thing people can do is often we find that thinking about the suffering of dogs for the dinner table can trigger people to think about the suffering of other animals, you know, that are caught up in the food industry. And so, you know, we can all stand up to animal suffering every time we sit down to eat and, you know, enjoy so many of the amazing plant-based options that we have available here in the UK. So,
OK, South Korea are doing their bit. That's going to finish by the end of the year. Thank goodness for that. What other countries have we to turn our attention to?
Well, the trade, very happily, is on the decline across Asia. So countries including China, Indonesia, Vietnam, they're all seeing a really big growth in the movement in young people in particular in those countries who are fighting against the dog meat trade. This isn't an issue of East versus West. You know, we care about dogs and they don't. There are, you know, so many passionate campaigners, incredible people who want an end to this trade in those countries every bit as much as we do. And so, you know, we're seeing bans come in. Jakarta recently in Indonesia banned the dog meat trade. That was phenomenal. Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong. It's changing really rapidly. And, you know, for dogs like Henry and all the other Henrys out there, you know, it can't happen soon enough.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Claire, and bringing us Henry as well this morning to bring it all to life. How could you ever want to eat a little Henry? He's just so precious.
Well, Claire,
lots of people will be inspired as well to support you this morning. How can they do that?
Thank you so much. Yeah, go to hsi.org and find out about all of our campaigns. Dog meat's just one of so many issues that we work on to protect animals all around the world. Please do go to hsi.org and find out more about what we do. Thank you.
So HSI stands for the Humane Society International. Look them up. Claire is from them. Thanks, Henry.
Yeah,
thanks very much
Henry.
indeed.
You're a superstar. So sweet. Makes me want one desperately. It's dangerous.